Casey's been working his throat.
What?
You've been working your throat.
What that mouth do?
I hope it coughs less.
Hello, welcome to 40K Fanatics, everyone.
I'm Shane.
And I'm Casey.
That's Casey's throat.
That is my throat. Yeah, I've been blessed with Nurgle's rot lately.
He's been so coffee, and full disclosure, we never listen to the pod afterwards because we're very lazy and we're poor content creators.
That's entropy for you.
But if you, I don't know, maybe you guys have heard him coughing through the first 15 minutes of every pod, but now he's been doing exercises and things, and we will see how it goes. He's even got hot beverage.
Ah, hot apple cider, baby.
We'll see if he claps his hands. That's the other thing we're trying to put a limit on. Oh, now we snap.
Snap, baby. Bend and snap.
Do. Today's show is brought to you by nothing. You guys didn't buy none of those books. However, I feel that we have done a proof of concept where we have shown that we are capable of ad reads. So if you or any of your loved ones have any roofing companies or insurance sales or used car dealerships that you would like us to shout out to our hundreds.
Wow, you're really branching out there.
I mean, look, I'll take it where I can get it.
I guess. Any game stores out there you want to shout out? Any guys who have other podcasts want to shout out? Let us know. I don't even really know. Hobby stores?
Yeah, all
one?
that.
Hobby Lobby?
We're also available for a home and home on any podcast. If you guys want one of us to come on and talk about nothing, there it is.
I do that. Oh, yeah. More cider.
More cider. Apply more cider. I have no idea what we were talking about today, but I do know that in this podcast we have a bits box to kick it off.
We do.
Open it up, sound effects engine.
Yeah.
In the bits box this week, I've not played any games, which feels kind of weird. I've been staying at the house. The time has changed.
Yeah,
and the
we were
darkness.
supposed to play last weekend.
Yeah, I stood you up on that. The darkness has crept in. The reason I stood you up, what was that? When were we going to play? Were we going to play Sunday?
We were going to play Saturday.
Oh, right, Saturday.
You said you forgot.
Right, I did forget.
I think it was one of those things where you just thought about it a lot, and then like last minute you totally forget.
Yeah,
right?
It was that kind of thing. I felt like, for some reason, I remember it that we were going to play Sunday, but it was Saturday, because Saturday I ended up chasing old girl around till about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
And a little PSA for all of our listeners, just don't drink and drive.
Oh.
Stop it. Just stop it.
You had a fun weekend.
I'm going to have to put a bell on her or something.
Oh, boy.
She slides out in no state to be motoring. But she survived.
There you go.
So.
Positivity.
But for all of you, don't do that.
Yeah.
It's a bad look.
Fair.
Now, though I've played no games, I have done quite a bit of hobbying.
Yes.
I've already finished my
We've
Nurgle.
both been on fire.
I've already finished my Nurgle for Nurglevember, whatever we call
Nurglevember,
it.
baby.
Nurglevember, because we've got a contest. We've got a contest in the works where both of us have acquired a Nurgle model. Mine was a Plague Marine, and we're painting them to then put them on X/Twitter for you guys to vote on your favorite.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you whose is whose, though. That's the wrinkle. So
Yeah,
you
we
guys
both
won't be able to just be like, I like Casey more because he is not so.
I'm good with the cider.
We like how he work his throat.
Yes. We're both painting a different Death Guard Plague Marine model that we have picked up or collected. I went out and got mine the other day, and Shane is done with his. I'm halfway done with mine. We'll post them up later, let you guys figure out. I'll post it everywhere. I'll post it in message boards. I'll post it in Instagram, Twitter, and we'll figure out, add up the votes and figure out who likes what more.
Can't we just make a poll on Twitter, or do you have to pay for Twitter to get the poll now?
No, you can put it. You can put a poll on Twitter.
Are you sure? I thought that was something you had to have.
No, because I've done it before.
Okay. Here's one for the community.
What's one for the community?
One, I feel like we don't hear enough from the community, and then I have more bits box to get to. But I want to hear more stuff from the people, and it makes me wonder, do we need to pay for the Twitter to get more people to see that we're a thing and then trust to comment?
I don't know. I don't really know how Twitter works, so I just post and let it happen.
Well, I think it is.
Some days, like 2 people will see what we post, and some days it's like hundreds. It's weird, right?
I think it's ever evolving.
Yeah, and I'm like, is it the tags, the hashtags? What's the deal? And then barely anybody's seen it. I don't know. Elon Musk, fix it.
Fix it, Elon. I'd be willing to give him like $7 a month to pop us up to the top of all of Warhammer and 40K content.
Above the Warhammer actual Twitter.
yeah. Like
they come to us to post.
Right, like if Elon could work that out, I would pay like $7 a month for that. I think that would be a fair price.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. Run that up the X flagpole. Back to me on my bits box. Yeah. I have really got into. So I tell you what,
your Nurgle stuff looks really good. Like you've been painting it your whole life.
Yeah, but we can't talk too much about it.
We can't.
We don't want to spoil anything. There can't be any tips or anything in there. But I found a little hack for painting, guys, and it is to have 2 things going at once.
Batch painting?
No, not so much batch painting. 2 totally different things, I think, is the way. So what I was doing is I was working on my Nurgle dude, and he had a lot of steps and a lot of processes, a lot of systems. And while I was doing that, every time that he needed to sit for a second, I would pick up a piece of my Black Coach. There are many, many pieces of the Black Coach for Age of Sigmar Nighthaunt. And I was working on the curtains around the top of the carriage.
Right.
Because I had done them like in a dark red over black prime. Yeah. And then I was going over with a bright red and just zhuzhing them up, so that they look like
good.
They look like good flowy bits. And so then I got that bit done, and then I went and grabbed the coffin because there's like a little dude in the coffin. That's what the Black Coach is.
Body.
Yeah, that's what the Black Coach is transferring, and so I would do a piece on the Nurgle dude, and then it would require some dry time, etc. And then I'd jump over and grab that, and so it's good because it'd be really easy to hit one of those spots where it's like, well, I just washed the whole, bit of this guy. That's a step. I can now go and do something else, and then your hobbying will stop.
Yeah.
For the day at that point if you let it. So I think there's a little hack in having more than one thing to do, and not the same thing, because that would wear you out. If you had 7 of them, I mean, obviously, if you have 10 to do, you've got 10 to do. But I find even then, a lot of times the sort of processes that really take a minute to dry and to move to the next piece, you can kind of bang them out on 10, and then the first one's still not dry. So I think that the move is to always have something completely different handy.
So, anything else?
Not that I can think of now, but I bet I'll come up with something else.
Yeah, if you guys want to go see Shane's Nighthaunt stuff, check it out on X/Twitter, whatever it used to be called. Doesn't exist anymore. Nighthaunt model is up on our Whip Wednesday from the other day, along with my Adeptus Biologus Primaris Apothecary, whatever they're calling this new model.
That white armor boy.
Boy, let me tell you, I had to correct so many stuff.
Yeah, you kind of went...
And I'm very good at keeping my mistakes.
You kind of went with paint the thing white to paint the thing white, which is...
Yeah, I should have started with a light gray. But
yeah, that's just kind of never the move. But
I wanted to stick as close to the box art as I could for this guy.
Yeah, it's tough because it's real easy to get the... I call it like the black void, right? Where you go to do black armor and you just do black on black, and all of a sudden there's just nothing there.
Yeah, it mutes it out. There's no detail, no shades, nothing.
Yeah.
So, I finished that guy up.
He turned out good.
He looks pretty dope. He looked pretty dope. I'll show it to you. Here, I'll grab him real quick.
It feels like, though, that method is totally working backwards to the way that I feel like you'd want to do it.
The classic method is really rough with white models, I must say, and lighter stuff like the yellow.
Yeah, so here we've got I've got him in my hand now. A couple of things. One, his little
hit him real quick.
His little biopack that he's carrying in his hand, the cylinder, has got some little his sample case has got some viewing windows on it, and they look spectacular. They look spectacular. You've got a little EKG on his arm that is a lovely detail. a fairly smooth decal on his shoulder, all solid. The white, you totally did this the same that you've been doing those Iron Warriors. Imperial Fists.
Characters, yeah.
Yeah, where it's base coat the color you want it to be, wash down a shade, build back up on edges and highlights.
Yeah, and I used a totally different method for the non-metallic metal, and it just turned out good, man.
Yeah.
It was like, I was shocked. I was like, that looks like metal.
He cleaned, too.
Yeah, he's pretty clean.
Oh, I see he's got a couple of canisters on his belt, and they're not totally full.
Yep. I was waiting for you to notice, and I was like, yeah, he's going to see it. It's going to be dope.
Yep. No, that's good.
Yeah, I felt pretty bad because I posted those pictures yesterday, and then what do I see first thing this morning is a picture of some guy who did the exact same stuff I did, but just a little bit better, and I was like, oh, I want to die.
That guy has got he's got the molded base rock thing. How do you feel about the sculpted base?
I'm kind of here for it. It kind of doesn't give you too much creativity to do it when they come with if you look at the old Dreadnought, they had pretty cool bases, and you could do a lot with them and pose your Dreadnought. With these ones, they kind of slot into the base, which gives you a little less creativity and makes the model more monopose, but I think a lot of these newer ones are more monopose than the old ones used to be.
I have not bought any cork to do basing as people do.
I'll give you some.
I don't even know if I want it, but I spoke about this a couple podcasts back. Like the MCP models all have. They all have like sculpted bases, but they're just bricks and sidewalk and sewer grate.
We should probably get going. We're pretty deep in the bits box, and I barely said anything about mine.
What? You don't want me to talk about?
I got stuff I want to. I have a life too, Shane.
Okay. You know what, guys? Come back next week for me to rant about sculpted bases.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
I swear
we've kind of got off a tangent. If I'm being
tell more of your bits box.
My bits box. Pretty stoked about the new narrative stuff that they're doing with 40K. They're having a whole new narrative tournament coming out soon. It's gonna be a lot like the Leviathan stuff, where it decides the fate of the lore. So that's pretty cool. I also finished that model, and we've been nonstop painting these Nurgle models for Nurglevember, and I'm about to keel over and die.
I mean, I painted mine in one sitting, but
yeah, I've been busy painting like last 3 nights straight up past like midnight, and it's been nuts. Anyways,
close the bits box. You don't want any more of my bits.
So today,
I don't know if anybody thought that they were going to hear us fight today.
Well, this is a Warhammer in the grim darkness.
In the grim darkness
of my paint studio.
Of the daylight savings time.
Gosh, I hate daylight
There
savings
is only
time.
war. It's dark so fast. I woke up at 3 p.m. today. It's possible that as things progress,
your vitamin D is going to go so low.
Yeah, that's possible. But it could happen that I don't wake up during daytime hours at some point soon.
It's possible because you sleep pretty late.
I mean, I'm going to have to flip it all the way over. Yeah. What are we talking about?
We are talking about either one of two things, and I hope you're excited about it because it's Nurglevember, and because we haven't done a video or a pod about this in a while, we're covering a Primarch.
Oh, is this the Mortarion one that I asked for?
We're talking about Mortarion, and it was your idea.
It was. I'm excited about this. I may not say anything else for the rest of the pod.
No,
and it'll be our highest rated ever.
Honestly, this is pretty cut and dry one, if I'm being totally honest. And it's either going to be just Mortarion, or it's going to be Mortarion and Death Guard, because we've done the Lion. And that was, Loyalist, and he has his own Space Marines. And Mortarion has his Chaos Space Marines, but Chaos Space Marines, they tend to be pretty one-sided. So, and haven't done a Trader Space Marine yet. So, it could be a whole thing.
Well, let's get into it. The thing that I asked Casey,
why don't you hit it off?
A couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. I don't remember when.
Yeah.
Unimportant. The thing I asked him was, how did one of the sons of the Emperor, one of these Primarchs, end up a big flying fart monster?
Big smelly moth.
Yeah, like what happened?
I love that. I love a big flying fart monster.
Because something went very wrong.
So, what happened was chaos broke into the Emperor's gene vaults and scattered the Primarchs to the wind. And our boy Mortarion ended up on a feudal death world. It took me a lot of research to find out if it was a death world or not.
So this is when they're all strewn about like as
Babies in a pod.
yeah, babies in a pod.
Yeah, like
Right.
a test tube, but the size of a man.
Like the one that we've done where Lionel Johnson ends up just
On
somewhere in
Caliban.
the wilderness of Caliban.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So you know how the lion was on a death world, right?
Yes.
Now you tell me what a death world is.
A death world is just a rough spot to be, where the flora and the fauna are trying to kill everything.
Yes. For this death world, it seems like the history is a little vague, but during the dark age of technology,
Mortarion's death world now.
yes, planet is called Barbarous. The planet is called Barbarous. During the end of the dark age of technology and the age of strife, human settlers were left there, couldn't get off. The planet is perpetually shrouded in poisonous and noxious gas. The only place for refuge for human beings are in the deep valleys. And they don't have any technology farther than steam power. So, yeah, if they venture out of those valleys, or maybe a shift in the wind happens, they gone.
Wow.
That's what makes it a death world. Unfortunately, this planet has been taken over by a Xenos race of necromancers. Yeah. Don't ask me what they look like. Don't ask me what race they are. That is literally all that the description is given. So, they live in these high towers, way in the clouds and the atmosphere of all this disgusting, noxious poison. And the head Mamma the big overlord daddy, out of all of these warlords, goes and fights another one in a war. Then he after the war's over, he goes out, surveys the battlefield, goes and looks around and sees all the machinations of his victory. And he sees all these dead, rotten, and disgusting corpses of these creatures that him and the other warlords have turned humanity into, that they use for like their foot soldiers, basically.
These are the necromancer guys.
Yeah, they turn them in, like humans into zombies.
Okay, so they had like enslaved the populations, or they were just killed in the.
It's kind of they go down, get the pick of the litter, or grab whoever they want, add them to their experiments in their armies, bring them back through their psyker sort of pseudo chaos worship stuff, and then they fight each other for power. So he goes out, sees this big old pile of corpses shrouded by poison gas, and he hears a baby. Big old baby just screaming its eyes out, screaming its head off, and a normal human baby would have died long ago. But there's Mortarion, just brand new infant, shrieking his lungs out, just alive.
Relatively impervious to the poison gas, I guess.
Ding, ding, ding. So, what do you think he does?
He would probably try to enslave the baby.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like, this thing is cool. I'm going to do some stuff with it. So he takes him under his hand, and it's sort of, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Tangled.
No.
It's basically the whole Rapunzel vibe, but the evil stepmother keeps her there like a prisoner. Anyways, so he lives high up in the clouds in a tower, and then he has the valleys down below with the humans. At the midway point, he's got a secondary tower, and he puts Mortarion in there, and he has him live there in the clouds of vaporous gas that don't kill Mortarion, but if he goes any higher, it could be a problem. Mortarion grows up, with this guy teaching him everything. Tactics, battle strategy, machines, a little bit of science, pretty much everything he knows, kind of like a father-son role, but he's kind of still using Mortarion as an experiment. Eventually grows up pretty quick because he's a Primarch, and he's like, where do those creatures that you, run, come from? And he's like, we don't talk about that. So Mortarion busts out of his castle one night because he's annoyed, kills 2 guards, runs down to the deep valley, and he sees humans. They're short because they're normal humans, and he's like, oh man, we're the same thing, and he's been turning them into monsters. So what does he do? He grabs a farmer's scythe and he saves the lives of the local villagers from a local warlord that had attacked him. Then he realizes he's immune to the poison, introduces himself to the villagers, and starts, fighting to rebel. He's got daddy issues, not gonna lie.
Right, as they all do.
So, Mortarion starts training up the local villagers. And what do you think he calls this militia group?
The plague something or others?
Calls them the Death Guard.
Oh.
Yeah. So Mortarion advances their technology a little bit. He teaches them a little bit about tactics, forms them into a militia, and then he goes on and starts knocking out these warlords one by one until eventually he rules the planet, and the only one left is his adoptive father. So, after just defeating a warlord, he comes back to his village and he's like, man, I'm pretty great. Everybody's going to be super stoked, but I cannot, for the life of me, get to that top tower. Because even for him, the poison is so bad. And he, at this point, has armed everybody with suits that he had slowly developed and made better and better to filter out all the toxins and poison. I just sent you some photos, so if you want to follow along.
Checking.
Yeah. So Mortarion comes back, and then he hears talk of a stranger appearing in the village. And he's like, what? Nobody's like praising me for this victory? What's going on? And he gets a little ticked. He goes over and he sees that the elders of the village are talking to this stranger who's like, hey, man, what's up? And he's like, what are you doing here? And he says, oh, I heard that you can't get up there. You're kind of a little baby. I didn't. I tried so hard not to curse on that one. So Mortarion takes this a little personally. Makes a challenge with this stranger and says, you know what? I'm going to climb up there. I'm going to kill my dad, and then we're going to have words, sir. And he says, okay, fine, but if you can't do it, you got to come work for me and this organization I'm with. It's called the Imperium of Man.
I take it this is Big E dropping in to recruit.
Oh, yeah. It was secretly Big E disguised himself as a wandering traveler.
Yeah, so that's a thing, huh? Big E can just present himself in any way that he desires.
Yeah, he can alter your perception, I guess.
Very strange.
I mean, I think it's dope.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It's pretty god or godlike being.
Yeah, it's got a lot of it's got a lot of really interesting knock-on effects.
Yeah. He's got like, I think if you look at like all the Primarch's powers, I would imagine he has all of them.
So the thing that I didn't even realize this was it, but they mentioned it in passing on a Tabletop Tactics episode of their podcast. Shout out to them. I like them. But they were discussing whether or not, this is a tangent, by the way, we're going to get back to Mortarion in a second. But they were discussing if they ever made a model for the Emperor. And then
they really need to.
The Bard said, what I want is for them to do the model of the Emperor, and he's glorious, and he's outrageous, he's giant, he's got all the bits on him. But then on the sprue is just a regular little human psyker who is actually Big E.
Yeah, it's so weird. All the Primarchs saw him as a different person, like I told you, as a general, as a traitor, as a despot, as a diplomat, as like a new god in Lorgar's case. Mortarion had a different way of seeing him. So Mortarion says, "You're on, old man." Climbs the mountain in his armor, and the fumes and poisons get so bad, his environment suit starts rotting and ripping off his body. They're starting to just rip through his armor. He's gonna die. Gets to the Citadel and collapses at the front gate and outsteps his alien daddy. And he's, screaming at him, wants to kill him, but he can feel the life slipping from his body. And he hears something in kind of like the back of his head. And he's just like, personal, like, are you my conscience kind of thing? Jiminy Cricket back there. And he says, I can make the pain go away. I could save you. So just before his alien daddy comes over and thrusts his blade into Mortarion, a burning, flaming sword just plows right through him and knocks him down, killing him instantly. Who do you think it is?
It's the Emperor of Mankind from the beginning of the story.
Yeah, the Emperor shows up and steals Mortarion's kill. And boy, is he ticked.
I bet.
Dude, he is so unbelievably mad. He hates the Emperor with every fiber of his being for doing this, because this was like his defining moment. This was going to like make him worthy, of being the leader of his planet and everything, and the Emperor saw that. So, and that voice that was secretly in the back of his head,
Not the Emperor.
no, that was Daddy Nurgle, the god of plague and pestilence, choosing him as his champion from the day one. So, he owns up to his bet, bends the knee to the Big E, and then he decides to lead the 14th Legion, what he renames the Death Guard. They were called the Dusk Raiders, and, well, there has not been a more drastic change in Space Marine Legion when they reunite with their Primarch out of all of them. He changes their armor, their iconography, their tactics. He even talked to their apothecaries, and maybe he changed a few things there. Their strategies, how they fought, how they communicated, everything. It was crazy. Mortarion, if I had to describe him, that kid in the back of the classroom doesn't say a word the whole time, and you're really worried he's going to bring a gun to school?
Ooh. Demonetized. Oh, wait. No money.
I just said gun. What are you talking about?
Go on.
Yeah, so that kid who everybody, like, even if you were nice to him, tried to bond with him, tried to, be cool with him, and he just acted like a total jerk and just said, doesn't matter, don't like you, nothing. That's Mortarion.
Wear red on Tuesday.
Yeah, so Mortarion changes the Dusk Raiders into the Death Guard, and they are basically changed from a all infantry, go straight at the enemy kind of fighting style at dusk to a war of attrition, hit them with artillery, and slowly grind them down as we push forward onto them. And it's such a drastic change that his Death Guard that he integrates into this force from Barbarous hates all of the Terran, all of the original Earth Space Marines.
Well, those guys were not Space Marines, right?
They were Space Marines, yeah. They were, Big E made them from kids on Terra.
Oh, Oh, no, I'm talking about the Death Guard that he brought from Barbarous. Those
yes,
are those
a
are
lot
like
of them went and did the aristocracy thing. Some of them did the Luther thing where they were half a Space Marine. But the younger ones, like a guy named Callus Typhon, he became a full-fledged Space Marine. Callus Typhon was one of his more favored advisors, and Mortarion took it upon himself to make him the first captain of the Death Guard, which is always important. If you look at any Space Marine Legion, the first captain is always some very influential character in the Horus Heresy. And I just sent you a picture of what Typhon looks like. He looks pretty dope. And that is pre-chaos, I believe.
Yeah, so that's Heresy Typhon.
Yeah, that's Heresy Typhon.
Neat.
Yeah, pretty dope, right? So the Death Guard, they start really absorbing this culture of Barbarous where Mortarion just prided himself on endurance, being able to endure anything, take down the despots and the tyrants, because you can get through life if you just endure anything, become stronger, be stronger, and push through the pain. Poison is like their forte. They even make bolt shells that like use poisonous rounds. They use noxious chemicals in their artillery. They even use barbarous iconography and stuff in their armor. That's why they have all those pipe works and steampunk-looking armor. And they even favor older forms of Space Marine armor more for the protection that it provided rather than the mobility. Just because they were like, let's grind and move.
That's how we get all those beaky Death Guards now.
So, yeah, that's pretty much, yeah. Now, I've talked to you a couple times about a few figures, and let's see if you can catch up your memory. Do you remember Magnus the Red?
Yes.
Magnus the Red spoke at the Council of Nicaea. He said, psychers are a good thing. Librarius, let's do this. Well, Mortarion hates psychers. Just kill them all. He actually wanted to do the whole concentration camp kind of thing with them and just get rid of them. Which is like a little harsh, but he has a point because his dad was a Xenos necromancer and a psyker. They go to the Council of Nicaea, and Mortarion looks at all these guys on his side who are anti-psyker, arguing against Magnus, and none of them have good points. They're all just there to, talk bad about Magnus, and then Mortarion's like, look, here's my childhood, here are my points, boom, mic drop. And the Emperor's like, oh, dude, maybe I should listen to Mortarion on this. And that was kind of like, it's so weird because he falls to chaos. And he's a Primarch, so he has psychic abilities at some point. Yeah. And he goes on fighting on the front lines of the Great Crusade, always against psychers. Council of Nicaea gets rid of psychers. The Death Guard had none, but his boy Typhon was secretly a psyker. Yeah. So Typhon goes on a little escapade with a few guys, you probably know them, the Word Bearers.
Oh, yeah.
And who do you think he meets?
That guy that is always the answer to Word Bearer lore. That
Erebus.
I can't. Right.
Yes. And Erebus is like, hey, man, I know you're getting a little fed up listening to people doing things the right way. How about you don't?
I guess Erebus encourages him to listen to the voice in the back of his head, which at this point must be getting quite loud.
Yeah. Typhus listens to Erebus and falls to chaos for Nurgle. Horus declares himself traitor. The Isfan massacre happens. All the traitors kill their loyalist brothers by bombing the planet that they send him down. A third of the entire Death Guard is killed from orbit. But one guy got out, and if I don't mention him, people will get mad. Nathaniel Gara was the sole survivor with his ship and hardy crew who get to Terra and warn the Emperor of Horus's betrayal.
They were Death Guard guys?
Oh, yeah. Horus, a Luna Wolf guy under Horus, he betrayed Horus. And Nathaniel Garo and a lot of Death Guard dudes, they were like, we're loyal to the Emperor. Let's go. We got to warn somebody. If the Horus heresy, Emps would have lost if this hadn't happened.
And it makes sense the Death Guard guys would be tough enough to survive that sort of onslaught, too, doesn't it?
Yes, they survive.
If anybody was going to make it out.
Yeah, they survive wounds that kill most Space Marines. They're pretty tough. Their initiation, they have to ingest poisons and walk through noxious chemicals that would kill normal people just to become a Space Marine.
So now that stuff's happened and the Siege of Terra is about to begin.
Horus was best friends with Mortarion. He was Mortarion's best friend. Let's say that.
Okay.
He was the only guy who didn't think of him as a weirdo. A hairless, bald weirdo with sunken eyes and pallid skin. He's like, hey, Mortarion, you want to turn traitor? He's like, I don't know. And he's like, Dad's a psyker. He's like, yes, let's go. Come on. I clapped. There you go.
You clapped and yelled. Yeah. One of these days, we're going to get you all trained for quality audio.
Sorry about that, folks. So, yeah, he jumps at the bit because he hates the Imp. He hates Emperor. They turn traitor, and then Isfan happens, and they're like, okay, let's head to Terra. Let's finish this off. Kill everybody because we're on a time crunch because the Ultramarines and the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves are coming. Mortarion is like, hit the warp button. Let's go. Bam. They head into the warp, but Typhus is like, hey, all of our astropaths, they all came down with a case of bullet to the skull. Turns out they were loyal to the Emperor, which is obviously a lie. So he's like, I'm going to let you in a secret. I'm secretly a psyker, Mortarion, Daddy Spectre, Daddy Reaper with your giant scythe. Just let me take over. Because I'm a psyker. I can do that. Same thing. And he says, okay, whatever, let's go. Leads him straight into the whole fleet of Death Guard into Nurgle's garden in the warp.
Wow.
Not only that, but he infects the entire Death Guard Legion with Nurgle's Rot and the Destroyer Plague. And it's a bad time.
And so they're just on their ships in the warp, now
Dying slowly.
Dying slowly.
Painfully.
But Mortarion's there.
Yeah, and he's dying too.
Nurgle has been speaking to him for some time.
Well, he hasn't spoken to him, but now he is. He did when he was on Barbarous, and now he's doing it again. Mortarion is like, what do I do? I'm kind of damned if I do, damned if I don't. Typhus ascends and becomes the plague champion of Nurgle and gets infected with the Destroyer virus, grows a huge unicorn horn.
Right, because he was, what?
Yeah.
What was his name before?
His name was Callus Typhus, and now he is Typhon. Or
No, but that's backwards. He was Typhon, now he's Typhus.
Now he's Typhus. I'll send you his model picture for the new one, too, which is dope, by the way.
Yeah, and Typhus do got a model.
Yeah, and the Destroyer Plague is spread through a hive of bugs. His body is host to that hive of bugs. Every bite from one of those bugs will liquefy your flesh and insert hardened masses throughout your skin.
Ew.
Yeah, it's bad. So the Death Guard are screaming, they're dying, they're melting, they're mutating, bones are breaking, horns are growing, and they're constantly suffering. And in the back of his head, Mortarion hears the voices, I can make this go away. I can save you from death. So he's like, save my sons, save me, because I want us all to be safe, and I want to be a good dad. And he flips the switch, turns Mortarion into a demon prince of Nurgle, his chosen champion of disease and plague and death, the Reaper. Typhus becomes a living disease hive, and the Death Guard become damned to follow Nurgle for all eternity.
And that's when they all got goopy.
Yep. They flew right to Terra. The clouds parted in the warp, and they just ended up right there in Terra.
Right.
Yeah.
Funny how that works out, right?
Very funny.
It's almost like we were tricked.
Yeah. So the Horus Heresy goes down. Emperor ends up a living corpse on his throne.
Well, time out. Let's talk about Mortarion's ascension.
Okay, go for it.
So he goes from a sickly-looking dude,
Who's tanky.
a tanky, sickly-looking dude,
Yeah.
in some sort of proto-plague armor.
Mm-hmm. And he hates psychers.
At this point, when you were showing me the pictures, they're in the cream color.
Yes.
All right. So now everybody's in green, and there's a lot of nurgly bits on them, a lot of pustules, a lot of horns.
Yep. And those are all growths and stuff.
And those are all growths and stuff from the
blessings and gifts of the plague god Nurgle.
Right. And then Mortarion grows these nasty-looking wings.
Yep.
He's got to be 25 feet tall.
Oh, yeah, he doubles in size.
Big, ugly gas mask that appears to be built onto his face.
Yep.
The scythe that he's carrying.
The Man Reaper called Silence.
Yeah. Also transformed, I imagine.
Gets bigger.
Ridiculous.
Awesome, right?
He's got a neat plasma pistol, too.
I think that one...
The Lantern.
The Lantern, yes. It's really cool looking. And I love that name, by the way.
It's like a double plasma pistol
Yeah.
thing. A lot of plasma glow to paint on that bad boy.
Yeah.
But and then at that point, like in the game, he's got his auras of various goop and stuff that just come off of him and radiate off of him. And he's a straight beat stick. He's got tons of wounds. He's got feel no pains. He's unstoppable.
Yeah.
I guess that's just what you get.
What aren't you getting? No,
That's just what you get when you ascend, right? In the same way, like Angron becomes this ridiculous winged rage monster.
Yeah, because Nurgle is despair, he is death, but he is also rebirth and resurrection through plague, and he doesn't just his gifts grant you long life, but they also take away the pain. So all of these Nurgle worshippers are horribly, horribly mutated, but they do not feel any of the pain from those.
Well, he's also gross.
Yes, very disgusting.
Now I got a
But
question.
they don't think they are.
Right? No, do they not?
No, they
Are,
don't.
are they kind of like?
They think they're blessed.
Yeah. The goop is
Yeah.
beautiful, right?
They after the Horus Heresy breaks out, all the traders run straight to the Eye of Terra to go make home in the warp. And Mortarion is gifted with a brand new planet
Really?
called Plague Planet that he makes a carbon copy
Kind of on the nose there, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. He turns it into his home base, rules over it in his high tower, much like very hypocritically like that Xenos daddy of his, because the lion blew his planet up.
The lion do be doing that.
Yeah.
I got a couple quick questions.
Okay, shoot.
Mortarion versus some of the rest of the Nurgle things.
Ooh.
So, tell me how this works. There's the Great Unclean One, and then there's Rotigus,
Yes.
and
They're-
those
they're
are like
both,
they're both the same model kit.
one's just got a name.
Okay, so neither of those obviously are Nurgle in the same way that like your, I mean, I don't know what you like. Your Lord of Change is not actually Tzeentch.
Yeah.
But
They're parts of the Chaos God.
right, so does a Demon Primarch Mortarion sit above or below a Great Unclean One or a Rotigus?
This is
And also, which is which? Is Rotigus above the Great Unclean Ones, and then are there many Great Unclean Ones?
No,
because that makes it
apparently-
funny because he's the one.
Well, he is like the chosen, the biggest like champion. He's gonna pick Mortarion to go fight his battles every day of the week. But apparently
Nurgle
the Chaos
would.
yes, but
Okay.
apparently the Chaos Gods have a numbering system. And I think Mortarion is like 45th or something like that.
Of the
But
gross Nurgle demons
yes,
that
and
exist.
Kugoth Plaguefather, the Great Unclean One, which is also one of like you mentioned that guy, he's probably like 6th.
Okay.
Yeah. And they all have their order of favoritism.
And then Rotigus is somewhere above him because he's got a
Yeah,
true name.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
And
I see.
Mortarion has been chilling for 10,000 years. Just decided to come back because Gilliman came back, and he's coming back with the plague, baby. He's ready to reap some vengeance on the Imperium of Man.
Well, I tell you what, I had more fun painting that Plague Marine than I thought I would.
Right? It's a really cool model.
It's I think if I had my choice of any model, I would do a different one, which we're not.
Can't you run?
We're
your
not going to
Chaos?
disclose what model I painted because we don't want to spoil the results.
Yes.
But there's something to the green armor that's kind of nice,
It looks nice.
and all of that.
So, what do you think of Mortarion?
I think Mortarion is neat. I think that it's it turned out there was not as much to it of him going from Primarch to Fart Monster.
Yeah,
I thought there
you thought it'd be all the wrong decisions, small decisions leading to corruption.
yeah, I did, and instead it was more like,
You got tricked.
well, not even Nurgle threw him to the place
Yep.
where he was always destined to become this.
Yeah, it's a lot of
As
people.
soon as he crash lands in his pod
Yep.
onto Barbaros,
Which is like
his fate was sealed.
exactly.
Also, Barbaros sounds so much like Krieg to me.
It does sound a lot like Krieg, except Krieg is radiation.
Oh,
Barbaros
okay.
is more like poison.
Well, see, the Krieg guardsmen have the gas masks on their faces, so that made
Radiation
me
and
think.
gas.
Yeah,
I don't know.
very
but
gross and
very
on
cool.
Krieg.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. I think we've covered
Pretty
it.
cut and dry,
I-
right?
yeah, that one was pretty straight ahead. I had no idea about Typhus's.
I'll mention
part
this
in
last
this.
fun fact because this is hilarious. He has a jar. Mortarion has a jar 10,000 years later. You know what he keeps in this jar?
I do not.
The soul of his Xenos father. Nurgle gifted him that, just like plucked him out, put him in a jar, gave him to Mortarion, and he just every now and again pours in a little bit of disease to kill him off and then bring him back.
I'm sure that will never become a problem for anyone.
So petty.
I've been Shane.
And I'm Casey.
We will be back with you next week for more 40K stuff. We want you to get on the X in
Yep.
the comments of the YouTube videos.
Happy Nurglevember.
Leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the places you get your podcasts. And tell us what you'd like us to talk about, because we get tired of thinking of stuff. We're very lazy. We're very lazy content creators.
Yeah, I guess.
See ya.
Peace. Happy Nurglevember.